All right, welcome to this week's edition of Dugout Dish podcast. As usual, I'm joined by my co-host and esteemed colleague, Coach Glasser. Coach Glasser, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good, man. Looking forward to today's conversation. Had some interviews in the mix. We did some college World Series picking, and we're going to get back to the recruiting trail here. And as you know, summer baseball is kicked off, and this is the hectic time of year, and a lot of movement, a lot of things going on, a lot of moving parts, a lot of things to consider, especially if you're a 2024 who's trying to navigate this. So today's episode, we're going to walk through a few select topics that hopefully inform and provide some information on some stuff, not only that's going to happen, but some tips on how to communicate with coaches, how to navigate the showcase camp selection stuff, talk about visits and why they're important, how to respond to coaches, getting feedback, and how you use that information, and then talk about how to navigate through some offers, because hopefully at this time of year for the 24th specifically, hopefully you're going to be making some decisions on where you're going, and you want to make sure that you're checking the correct boxes so that you have the information that you need and can make a decision that that your family and yourself are going to be happy with, not only from a baseball perspective, but academics and socially and all that good stuff that we talk about all the time. So why don't we kick it off? One of the things I think is really important for the players to understand is that this stuff is not going to happen for you. Like, you have to take ownership of the process here, whether you're working with someone like me and you who've done this for 25 plus years and have a ton of information on how to do this. It still comes down to, specifically for 24s, but 25s as well, they're recruiting you, and you need to show that you're able to go out and email a coach, hey, here's my schedule. Right? Coach, I'll follow up with you next week. Here's the schedule for next week's tournament. And I think one of the fundamentals that gets missed is that a lot of kids sit back and they think it's just going to happen because they play well at a tournament. Well, if nobody's there to watch you, it doesn't really matter. And the only way these guys will be able to get there and see you is if they know where you're going to be. And there's a couple ways to do it. I'm a big fan of the email piece. And obviously, if you have contact information for the coaches who are recruiting you, that's the easiest way. Hey, coach, here's my schedule for the Super 17 this week. I got games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, yada, yada. But I think one of the other ways, it's kind of a sneaky way to do it that I don't think a lot of people consider, and I don't see a ton of kids doing it. Post it on Twitter. Like, just take a snapshot of your schedule and post it on Twitter. You don't need to tag all kinds of coaches, but if coaches are following you, your schedule will show up on a feed. It doesn't guarantee that they're going to be there, but they can't be there if they don't know, right? So even if they don't respond to an email, we've talked about this, they probably read it. And if they're at Super 17 this weekend, or they're down at the Black Bear down in South Carolina, and they have that schedule on their list, they know what team you're playing for, they know when you're pitching, or they know when you guys are going to play. That's the only way that they're going to be there. And I think sometimes it takes time and it takes a little bit of effort. And that's the thing that kids need to understand, is that, like, if your tournament starts on Thursday and the schedule comes out on Monday, like, you need to find a couple hours to get emails out on Tuesday. And you need to be diligent about getting those out. And you shouldn't expect everybody to respond, but you're only going to get people to show up if they know you're going to be there. And I know you have some thoughts on this, having been on the other side of this before, and I'd be curious to hear how you kind of preferred that players communicated with you on this.
Yeah, the being able to kind of own the process is, I think, the biggest thing in all of this, right? You have so many people that are going to be telling you what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Mom and dad are sometimes sending emails, which we can kind of decipher pretty quickly. But, at the end of the day, I want to hear from you. And the other part is, like, I was kind of old school in the communication. I've said this before. I came up with a lot of guys in this business who, were around for a very long time. And that's just how they did it. And that's how I was taught. but there are some people who might not respond all the time, and sometimes they will, and it might take a little while because, look, you get recruiting at the college level, like you're at the field, you're at Super 17. I mean, man, you're going to be there from 8, 9 in the morning till sometimes 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. That's a long day. You're not checking email all day long. You're not responding to everybody. So it's going to take a little while. But if you send me your schedule while you're there, like I likely saw it and will follow up. It doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to respond right away, but I have it, and if I can get to the game or it's there, and I have you on the list to watch, like I'm going to watch you play. But to your point, if I don't know where you are or what's going on, then I can't show up to watch you play. And there's nothing wrong with if I couldn't get to Super 17, let's say, and you have a pretty good week and you have some highlights, like put them together and either put them on Twitter and tag the Flat Ground app and stuff like that, or throw a quick video together on a YouTube page where it's owned by you and send the link out, because at least for me, and I'll speak from my experience, I would take that link and put it right into our database. So in your profile in our database is your YouTube page. So every time you email me or I see you out on the road, I can pull up that YouTube page and be like, okay, I remember this kid. These are the videos I remember seeing, and it's pretty good, and it looks a little bit better live too. So there's a lot to be said about just taking 2-3 hours of your time and just hammering out some emails. And I think the one big part too is try to avoid the mass email to everybody. Take a Word doc out, write the same email, write one email, and just copy and paste it in. It makes you make sure that you have the right email address, you have the right coaching staff, you have the people it is that you're trying to reach out to come see you play, and go from there. It's a little bit like the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Eventually, people are going to be able to see you play, and then ultimately, once they see you play, you're going to get some feedback on it, and then you're going to have to take that feedback for what it's worth. Sometimes it's going to be like, hey man, we really like you, we want to get you to campus. Other times it might be like, hey, we're not recruiting that position, or it's just a little bit too short for us right now. These are the things that we would be looking for at this position. Let's say you're a shortstop and you run a 7.4. Like, hey man, like we're not recruiting guys in the middle who run a 7.4. We're recruiting guys who run a 7.0 or a 6.8, whatever it is. So to be able to kind of take that stuff, and take that feedback and understand that it's not negative, right? It's them trying to legitimately be transparent with you of where you fit into their recruiting board, so that they can make the best decision for themselves and their program. But it's like you said, it just takes a little bit of effort on a Monday or Tuesday night when the schedule comes out to send it out like, hey, this is where we're playing. These are the game times. These are the fields. If you're there, please come watch me play, because eventually you're going to get seen.
Yeah, I think you touched on an important piece, and I think we probably talk about this for a few minutes, but the feedback portion. And this can be tough for guys, because the feedback isn't always good, or I shouldn't say that it's always good. It's not always what you want to hear. All right. And this time of year or kind of throughout the process, guys have high aspirations, and they should. You want to shoot for the stars. You want to kind of try to find that dream school. But one of the things I would say to players and parents listening is, if you get a bunch of people telling you the same thing, it's probably the truth. And this can be hard. And this can be a really difficult thing, but you got to be able to use that information to help guide you in the process. Because if you're stuck on one specific thing, and there's definitely kids who run into this, where they have aspirations to be at a certain level or a certain type of school, and the feedback comes back from that type of school, multiple schools in that kind of category, and they say, hey, like you're either short this way or you're short that way. And they don't want to take that feedback. They kind of just take it as, well, they're wrong. And there's a difference between wanting to prove them wrong and then denying the evaluation of multiple guys who actually make decisions. And if you deny that information and you blindly go through the process just thinking that everybody's wrong because you don't agree with it, you're going to pass up some opportunities that could be really good for you. And that's one of the downfalls and one of the tough things about the recruiting process is that there's going to be coaches who are going to tell you you are not good enough. And it could be for various reasons. It could be academics. It could be because they're not looking for that position. It could be they just don't think you're good enough to play for them. And I can speak to this, and you can too. Like we've all got it wrong. There's always a kid that you said, I just didn't think that kid was good enough. And then you look up 3 year later and you're like, gosh darn it. Like that kid's hitting 330 with 8 bolts. I passed on him. Like that happens to everybody. And that's just part of the process. Like it's not a science. Like it's an art and it's a imperfect art. And guys get things wrong. But if you get 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 coaches that you're interested in and they're all giving you really similar feedback, it's probably true. And I think you run into this kind of with the D1 and bust mentality is that everybody's dead set, not everybody, but you get people who are dead set on playing Division 1 baseball, and then they get the feedback that they may not be a Division 1 baseball player, and they chase that so long that they lose out on opportunities to play at really good programs. And we've talked about this at length, but there's just really good baseball programs out there that don't have the Division 1 label next to them. And in fact, I would say that there's Division 1 programs that you don't want to play at anyways for a number of reasons. And my advice would be take the feedback, use it to develop. Like if you're 25 and you're getting feedback from a coach at a camp, or you're getting feedback from a coach through your coach, however it may happen. I know there's gray area in how that would happen, but if you're getting feedback or you have somebody in your corner who's telling you, this is kind of where you fit, use that as information to develop. But if you're 24 and we're getting into mid-June here, if you've got told by 8 or 10 people that they don't think you're good enough to play at a specific level, like you need to start opening your eyes to other schools, because those spots will fill up quickly, because there's other kids out there who are just trying to find a really good place to play and get a really good education, and they're going to snatch those spots up. And if you can get caught scrambling, and you don't want that because you were stubborn. It doesn't mean that stuff can't happen. Things change with programs, players change. Development timelines are different, really specifically for pitchers. But you got to at least be open to a broad range of possibilities, especially if you're a 24 right now, and be willing to take into consideration other stuff, because you just don't want to be caught there. You don't want to be caught in October and you got nothing because you were so hung up on a very specific thing that you never took into consideration something else that might be a good fit for you.
It's interesting. I used to always say this, and I still do, and I believe this. If you want to play at a super high level, whether it's the, SEC, ACC, at the college level, if you want to go play professionally, whatever it is, because the vast majority of people who play this game in high school and travel ball and want to get to college have those aspirations. You have to be more than just a one-trick pony. I used to say this all the time, right? Like, you can't just be able to hit, right? Like in college, you have to be able to defend as well. You can't, unfortunately, like you can't just hit 9 DHs and never play the field. You're going to have to be able to do something other than just have a hit tool. Or you're going to have to be able to do something other than just run. Like, yeah, he can really, like, this kid can really fly. Like, okay, but you can't steal first base. Like he has to get on somehow, and I think that sometimes, at the high school level, you have a lot of people who are, really good where they grow up and where they're from. And it becomes a little bit more eye-opening when you start playing a little better competition, that you can get exposed in some certain areas and you get some feedback of like, hey, like the hit tool is really good, but the defense is just, it's not there for this level. It's not there for us. And if you hear that from, 7, 8, 9 Division 1 programs, like, it's time to start looking at the Division 2 and Division 3 level. It doesn't mean that you're not good. It just means that you're short for what it is they're looking for. And that's okay. You're likely going to develop into a pretty good player by the time you're a junior or senior if you go to the Division 3 level. They just don't have the time to do that at their level. Like they're looking for guys that can come in and do it right away. And if you can't do it right away, there's a lot of guys out there who can, so they're going to go after those guys. And to your point as well, like if you sit and wait on that, like the other schools, let's call it the Division threes or twos, like they're going to go after guys that want to go play for them as well. So if you hold out because you want to go play Division One and there's absolutely zero offers, and then come September, October, you got nowhere to go, and you start to hit the panic button, and you reach out to some twos and threes, it's like, well, hey, we're not recruiting that anymore. Like we were looking for a catcher, we got our guy, or we're looking for a center fielder, like we got that, we brought that guy in, like we can't carry 6 catchers. And now it's further on down the list to a school that, might not necessarily be the best fit, or, a place that you really want to go to when, the hard truth is you kind of got to take the feedback you're getting and be like, okay, this is probably where I fit best. And it's awesome. It's great. I'm going to play college baseball, but now let's find the right fit at that level so that I can have a phenomenal career and a great academic experience, and then move on to whatever it is you do after. Like, I mean, you can develop into a division, as at the Division III level and go play professional baseball. And I got a guy right now who's playing in the Marlins organization. If you told me that he was going to play professionally after his freshman year of college, like I didn't think that that was in there, but he grew, he got bigger, he got faster, he got stronger. All of a sudden, balls are jumping off his bat, and he could really hit, and he can defend, and he's got a, baseball IQ that's through the roof. And that those intangibles and things play, and that's why he's going to play professionally for a little bit. So I think being able to kind of take that feedback and really understand it, and sometimes I think the hard part comes from, especially when you're hearing it from the coaches that you're playing for, right? Like I think some people, take that a little bit the wrong way. Like your coaches that you're playing for have your best interest. Like they're not there to lie to you. Like, listen to what they're saying, and they'll guide you generally in the right direction. I just think that there's, I've had conversations with a guy, and it was and still is a really good summer baseball program in the state of New York. I mean, there's like 7 active big leaguers off that out of that organization right now. And there's people that don't really want to believe them when they tell them that they can't play at the ACC or SEC level. It's like, man, they've been doing this for like 50 years. They currently have 7 big leaguers with a list of another like 8 or 9 that have played. Like it's hard to do for a small kind of outfit, that doesn't go national. So they like, you find people who know what it is they're doing and what they're talking about. Like you should listen, right? Like, we use this analogy where, you don't call a plumber to fix the plumbing in your house, and then, when he gets there and starts fixing it, tell him that he doesn't know what he's doing. Like, there's a reason that you want to lean on these people. If you had it all figured out, then, you wouldn't, you would be where it is that you think you should be, right? Like, it's that simple. If you're that good, you'll end up there. And if you think you should be there, then, you might. But if it's not in the cards and it's not happening with the feedback you're getting, then you need to readjust your outset for what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So I think it's a little bit more new. It's obviously nuanced, but it's one of those things where I think it's hard for people to kind of understand. Like you could do something really, really well and be deficient in other areas of the game, and that's what's going to hold you back. Where that's what, you need to be able to do more than just one thing really well.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And those conversations are tough. Like they're hard. Like it's hard to tell a kid, hey man, I know you really like this school, but they're not interested. But you have to, because you have to be able to move on and go look for other things, right? Like that's the thing that I think gets caught up in this world, in kind of the recruiting world. But everybody thinks that because it's a no, it means that you're not good. If you can play college baseball at all, you're a pretty good player, right? There's very few people who get to play in the SEC and the ACC, right? And everybody wants to be on the College World Series. Like, I get it. I understand. But there's very few that can play there. And there's not many more that get to play at the next highest level. The Sun Belts and the Big Tens and the Pac-12s. Like, it's really, really hard to play at that level, period. And it doesn't mean that you're not good if you don't get to play there. It's really that simple. And there's a reason that junior college guys and mid-major guys and Division III guys make it to the big leagues is because you're not running the race to be good when you're 18. Like you're running the race to see how long you can play college baseball. And if you can take a step back and realize that the goal is to get an opportunity that's a fit for you, it becomes easier to accept that feedback and go, all right, well, that place isn't a fit for me. They don't like me. That's fine. I'm going to go find another place that does like me. And I'm going to start to open up my options. And as a player and as a parent, and sometimes honestly, I think it's the parents that are harder to deal with it with their kids because they're stuck being a fan and not being a parent. And, they see their kid do well or they get a couple hits and they think, well, the coaches were there and he got 2 hits. But we all know that not all hits are created equal and not all, physical abilities in the batter's box are created equal. Um, and the nuance of the evaluation becomes really difficult. And I think that people can get caught up in that. And it's a hard thing to understand if you haven't been doing it a long time, that it's just not that cut and dry. So, for parents and players that are listening, you're going to get feedback that you don't like. But if you can use that feedback to redirect and you can use that to develop as a player, not only for your recruiting process, but moving forward. Like if somebody's telling you that you can't hit, or somebody's telling you that you don't defend enough, or somebody's telling you, that your breaking ball is not good enough, whatever it is, great. Go find a place that you can play at that wants you so you can be a part of something. And then take that into the offseason, go and close the gap. Like if you're not strong enough, like, okay, you can either bitch about it and point the finger at other people who are making the decision and say that they're wrong, or you can go, okay, I'm not a fit for you. I'm going to go find a place that's a fit for me. And then I'm going to go get really strong, or I'm going to go I'm going to go work with somebody and I'm going to try to add some velocity, or I'm going to try to tighten up my command so I throw a few more strikes so that when you get to wherever you go, you can be good. And that's what I implore these kids to do. Like, it's not about how good you are when you're 17. It's about developing. It's about competing. It's about getting an opportunity to play college baseball and experience what it's like to be a part of something that's truly bigger than yourself. Because your travel team is not like, it's nothing like college baseball. And if you get to experience that, you're a part of a very small group of individuals that get to do that. But it's tough to get there if you can't accept that feedback and you can't use that to kind of redirect and navigate more clearly.
Yeah. Everyone wants their kid to be as successful as they possibly can, but the reality is that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to have eyes on watching kids play, and like, have I missed on people? Yes, I absolutely have. There's been guys that I've watched where I'm like, I don't think so. And then, 2, 3 years later, they're shoving against us. And I'm like, had him on campus. Didn't think it was good enough. But, he's still fit at the college level somewhere, right? Like, only, the number gets thrown around, only 7% are going to go play in college. Like, that means 93% of people aren't good enough to play in college. Not everybody is a phenomenal recruiter at the college level or a talent evaluator, but when you see enough games and you watch enough baseball, you start to figure out what works and what doesn't. And if, you have 30, 40 people and, we're talking about I'm just, let's say it's 10 teams. Like we'll ballpark it at 20 coaches because they probably, multiple guys have seen you. You have 20 or 25 people think that you don't fit at that level. Like, you can't just kind of dismiss it as like they don't know what they're doing. Like, and on the flip side, like usually it's from, well, it's schools that you wanted to go to, and then you're going to say that they don't know what they're doing. So then my question would be like, then why would you want to go play for them? Right? Like, you want to go to that school, they told you you're not good, and then now it's they don't know what they're doing, but you still want to go there. So like, which one is it? Are you upset because they don't think that you're good enough to play there, or do you honestly think they don't know what they're doing? Which then begs the question, why do you want to go there? Because then now you're telling me that you're going to go to a school with a coaching staff that you right now don't think knows what they're doing. And to me, it's just more of a, I don't want to accept the feedback, and it hurts. And there's a lot of times that you're going to have that tough conversation, and it's not the first time it's going to happen, right? Like, think about how many times when, as coaches, you have exit meetings at the end of the fall and at the end of the spring, or the amount of times that guys come in and want to talk about why they're not playing. Those are tough conversations that you have as a coach all the time, and the kids are going to have them. Like, you're going to get to college and you might not be playing all the time right away. So then it's going to become like you're going to have to have that conversation. Like, hey, what do I need to do to get better? And same thing. Like, do you take the feedback then, or are you like, the coach doesn't like me, he won't play him? And we've all heard it. We've talked about it on here. Like, and I'll say it again for the new listeners: there's not a coach in America that will not play a kid that can help them win because he doesn't like him. Like, you're paid to win baseball games. If you can help me win, you will be in the lineup. I never not played a kid because I didn't like him. And, fortunately, I never really had that happen to me. But, if there was somebody that I didn't necessarily like, I'm not going to sit you on the bench because I don't like you. Like, it's ridiculous. I'm trying to win baseball games here. So I think that it becomes an easy thing to just say, like, well, they don't know what they're doing, or the coach doesn't like them. Like, that's the easy way out. It's not actually that's not listening to the feedback you're getting and trying to change what it is to make you a better player. It's just being dismissive and being like, no, they don't know what they're doing. Okay, like, then don't change. That's fine. And that's not the right attitude, in my personal opinion. But, I think that it's something that, needs to be said and needs to be heard so that people can understand, like, you can still play college baseball at a high level at a really, really good school and become a very, very good baseball player at the Division II, Division III, the JUCO level. Like, you can become really good and compete at those levels, and then have a phenomenal college career. It doesn't have to be Division I in the ACC. Like, there's a select number of guys that are going to go play there. There's a select number of guys that play in the SEC. And again, this is a very big country. There's a lot of baseball being played everywhere. So, just because you're really good in, upstate New York doesn't necessarily mean that you're, the best player in the country that can go play in the ACC.
I think the other thing that, like, if you're a high school kid listening to this, like, reality check, when you get to college, nothing's handed to you. Like, if you walk on campus and you're that freshman who thinks when you get there that you deserve playing time, like, you got something. Like, it's going to be tough. It's all earned. And I think that at times kids who are really talented, and it doesn't matter where they go, but kids who are really talented, they walk onto a campus and they just assume, like, I got a 50% offer to play here. Like, I'm going to play right away. Like, nah, you're in for a rude awakening, because you're now the low man on the totem pole with 22 and 23-year-old men that you're competing against. Like, you need to earn it, and things need to be earned. Just like, it's not really any different than the recruiting process. Even when you get to campus, like, you need to prove you're good enough. Like, you need to showcase yourself every day. And that's almost every conversation we ever had, like, going back to what you were talking about, having conversations with players after the fall or after the spring season. The general response from a kid who was upset about playing time that was, well, you never gave me a chance. That's couldn't be farther from the truth, because everybody gets a chance every day in practice. And until you can become a good practice player, I got no reason to play you. And that's just the truth of it. Like, college baseball is super competitive, and you're not going to get patted on the ass and told you're the best all the time. And it's going to be tough at times. But the kids who recognize that they have to earn it, they usually don't end up having to have that conversation when it's a different tone, right? It's the kid who comes into the office and it isn't, why am I not playing? It's, what do I need to do to get in the mix? And there's such a huge difference in, they're getting at the same thing. They're both probing at, why are they not playing? But one of them's coming at it from, it's your fault I'm not playing, and you're playing the blame game, and it's the other one's coming at it from a place of accountability and a place of looking for some guidance on what do I need to do. Because if you come in and you ask a coach, hey, like, what do I need to do to get in the lineup? Guarantee you they'll give you a really honest answer. And you might actually like it because they might say, hey, listen, right now we only feel like you can play defensively in left field. And unfortunately for you, the guy who's in left field right now is, he's hitting 330 and he's got 10 bolts. Like, we can't take him out of the lineup. But we might try to move you over to right to see in practice to see if you can get it done over there. And maybe we can find some at bats for you. Keep putting your head down in practice. Like, we want to see you do a little bit better, on on-field BP when you're out there in left field. We want to feel better about you defensively. Like, whatever it is, you're going to get responses like that. And if you can take that and put it into practice, I promise you that a coach is going to look down the bench when there's an opportunity to get somebody in the game, and they're going to go to the guy that they know is invested in trying to get better and didn't come into the office with the woe is me, like, you're an idiot, I can't believe you're not playing me approach, versus like, all right, I'm not playing, I want to play. What do I got to do? Like, what can I do to help the team win? That's the question you should be asking. And those kids, they always find a way to figure it out because it's not coming from a place of what about me? It's coming from a place of how can I contribute? And there's such a big difference in that. And the freshmen who walk on campus who think they've earned something before they've got there, like, it's going to be tough because not only are you in for a rude awakening, but the kids who've been there for a year or 2 or 3 years, like the kids who are sophomore, juniors, and seniors, they're not going to like you because nobody likes the freshman who walks in and thinks that their shit don't stink. Like, it's just the truth. It's the truth. And you don't want to be that guy. Like, you want to be the guy that comes in and works hard and is a good teammate. And you'd be shocked at how well it works out for guys who take that approach.
You're dead on.
I digress.
No, yeah, we do, but we do every podcast. But you're not wrong. I mean, I won't speak much longer, but you're like the idea that you never got an opportunity is patently false. Like, you get an opportunity every day you show up to practice, and coaches are evaluating literally daily. What's your preparation look like? What's your BP look like? What are you doing when you were taking fungos and doing team defense? Like, are you in the right spots when we're doing team defense? Are you how do you take your live reps during BP? And if I'm standing behind the cage and I'm watching, and you're not taking any single rep seriously or really at all, like, say you want to play second, and I look up and you're shagging balls in the outfield, and then you come in and be like, why am I not playing second? Well, every day at practice, you go out in the outfield and shag fly balls. Like, what makes you, like, why am I going to put you at second base? Like, what are we doing here? And that's happened. I've had that conversation, so it's, you have an opportunity literally every single day at practice to showcase your skills and what you're capable of doing to get the opportunity to be able to be in the lineup. And when you get in the lineup, you got to produce. That's the other part of it. Like, once you're there and the lights are on, you have to produce. And if you don't, like, the next guy will come up, and you'll keep cycling until somebody can actually win the job. But you have to be able to take the feedback and be able to use it constructively for yourself, not only for the recruiting process and where you want to go and to find the right fit, but also once you get there to be able to develop into the player it is that is capable of playing every day. And that doesn't happen, very rarely is that something that happens for guys that walk in and just start day one and play all 4 years and they never really struggle, because this game's too hard. You're going to struggle. So you have to be able to take the feedback and use it constructively to make yourself better so that you can continue to be on the field every day and help that team win.
I think that's a good way to close out that segment because it's spot on. So Let's touch on the showcase camp stuff again real quick. And we've talked about this on previous podcasts, but I think we'd be remiss not to talk about it a little bit given the topic of summer ball here is this is specific. I would say this is more targeted towards 24s, but certainly for 25s as well. You need to be able to fit in showcase opportunities and camp opportunities into your schedule. And I know that the summer ball travel schedule stuff can get really tight, but you may need to communicate with your coaches like, hey, coach, I got invited to this camp I'd really like to go to. I've talked to this coach. Um, I think I'm in the mix there. It's a school that I really like. And you may need to miss a game, right? And if your travel coach has got a problem with that, that's on them because it shouldn't be about the travel organization. It should be about the kids. Um, but you need to try to find that stuff, and you need to try to find time to get to those places, um, and take the time to get in front of coaches. You know, some teams play all over the country, and you may be a kid who's trying to play in a specific region of the country. Well, you need to find a showcase that's got those types of schools, and if that conflicts with a tournament, then you may need to go to that showcase because at the end of the day, you're trying to get recruited and you need to look out for number one here and there. Yeah, obviously you have an obligation to your team and you want to play for your teammates, but you know, there's time where you need to really take a step back and go, all right, there's two camps that I really want to go to this summer. I'm going to miss the front end of this tournament and the back end of this tournament. Communicate with your coaches and make sure you get to the places that you want to get exposure to. Um, I think that that's a tough thing and you get pressure from travel organizations. Sometimes I know these kids do. They're like, well, we're going to Hoover and you're not going to be there. Well, if you're not a Division I player and you're trying to get recruited, going to Hoover is probably not going to help you. So maybe there's a showcase that has a bunch of schools that you're interested in. You know, maybe going down to the Worldwood Bat isn't the best move for you because you want to play in the Northeast, and a lot of the Northeast Division I schools, they stopped going down to the 2024 WWBA because they're just going down there to see kids that they've already seen 10 times. So what's the difference? Um, you know, and I know a lot of guys have shied away from going down, or they're going down for shorter periods of time. You know, so maybe going to a different tournament or, you know, going to a showcase is going to be more beneficial. And you got to consider that, especially if you're a 24, like you need to start making decisions about your exposure and your opportunity and try to do the best you can to balance that because you know that tournament down in Florida that conflicts with an opportunity for you to get in front of a bunch of coaches that you're interested in. I can promise you that tournament down in Florida doesn't matter that much. And travel coaches are probably, you know, probably up in arms if they hear this, but it's just the truth. And these kids need to make decisions that are best for them. And these travel guys should support it. You know, they're paying money to play for you. They should support the opportunity to get in front of some coaches and get a chance to get some exposure.
Agreed. You know, I think there's a difference, a distinct difference that, you know, we can kind of say that, you know, we're not saying that you should, you know, miss 12 games or, you know, 3/4 of the tournaments to do this. But if there's, you know, if there's a tournament in Florida that's going on and you're being mainly recruited and want to go to a NESCAC school, like, and there's a showcase or a camp series going on where they're going to be there, like you might be better served going to the one that they're all going to be at, versus the one that they're not going to be at. You know, so I think being able to weigh those things and being informed from that standpoint, you know, and I think the other thing too, and this is, how do I say this? This is that I think this is something that when I was coaching, and it's still happening, that coaches are complaining about, is that when you get guys, specifically freshmen at the college level, they do not know how to play the game. Which begs the question, what are they playing for and what are they learning in travel baseball? So I'm not saying that they don't do a good job. I'm not saying that they don't develop guys. This is a blanket statement, and I don't want to get in trouble with my words here. But a lot of teams are set up to do just that and showcase guys they're not necessarily always set up to go win and compete and play day in and day out and play 40, 50 games in the summer. Like that's not really a thing that happens anymore. So I think if you have the kid's best interest in mind and you're going to a tournament where there's a lot of schools that are not going to recruit that kid and he has an opportunity to go somewhere to be seen by a bunch of schools that are going to recruit him, like that has to be the priority. Like, hey, don't worry about it. We'll catch you next week or we'll catch you in 2 weeks at the next tournament, whatever it is. Like, that's better for the kid and it's better for your organization because then people are going to be like, hey, they let us go to they were okay with us, missing this tournament so that we could go to, a couple on campus camps where we were really interested and those were the schools that were recruiting him and they weren't going to be at that tournament. And, he ended up that's one of those schools, and I think that there's a love-hate relationship with the way that college recruiting has shifted, in the last 15, 20 years where it has become places like Diamond Nation and Lake Point and, where there's just so many teams and, bang for your buck from a recruiting standpoint, you can see a lot of guys in a short period of time for not a lot of money. Gone are the days where when you and I grew up where, that wasn't a thing. Like you had to actually go out and see a doubleheader between, the Bayside Yankees and the South Troy Dodgers and sit on that game and watch guys. Like, that doesn't really happen anymore. It's a lot easier to just sit on a complex and watch a bunch of teams. And I get it. I did it. I a small recruiting budget. I know what it is, but then you watch and you wonder, what are they being taught about the game of baseball and what, when they get to you, there's such a learning curve. It's a very steep learning curve that they have when they get to you because, that sometimes it's the developmental side, other times it's the compete side because they've played for a team their whole lives that like in the summer, they're there just to showcase. They're not really there to win. They're there to get seen by college coaches and flash what they can do and hopefully get signed somewhere. And that doesn't bode well in the college game in the long run. And I digress, but I think that's from this standpoint and from a parent standpoint, like you need to be able to evaluate in the kid, right? Like you need to be evaluate like, hey, this is where we're going, but we're not being recruited by any of those schools. We're being recruited by these 5 schools and they're holding camps during that time. Like it would better serve us to go to those camps and get recruited. And that's a conversation you have to have. And I for one think that is fine. Like you should be able to do that. Like this is a better for the kid. Like we're all in this for the kids. We're in this so that the kids can get really good at baseball and have a phenomenal experience when they get to college, not rack up wins on the summer circuit. Like sorry to say it, but no one really cares what your summer high school baseball coaching record is. It's irrelevant. Like, sorry. I'll say it, but it's true. Let the kids go do the things that they need to do so that they can get recruited by the right schools.
Yeah, spot on. I got a funny story about the gameplay stuff that I think I'll tell you who told me this after we get off the podcast. But I was talking to one of our friends today, and we were laughing. He was on his way down to Super 17, like half of the East Coast is headed towards it this weekend because big Super 17 starts up, I think, tomorrow, or actually may start it up. Yeah, tomorrow, I think. But it was like 5th or 6th game of the season, he said, and he pinch ran for a kid. And they end the inning, and the kid grabs his glove and starts to run out into the field. He's like, hey, like, what are you doing? And the kid turned around, he's like, I'm going out to play defense. And he's like, you're not in the game anymore. And the kid was like, there's no re-entry rule?
No, sir.
No, son. Like this is we wear caps and sleeves in this league.
I had a kid.
I couldn't stop laughing that was, but it's not a knock on travel baseball. There's so many pluses about it. These get to play a lot of games, but they play with different rules that just are not a part of college baseball.
I had a kid. This is true. I had a kid he was a freshman the one year. I forget what year it was. Um, but we were like, I wrote the lineup, and he like comes over. He's like, "Coach, can I ask you a question?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, what's up?" He's like, "How come we only DH for the pitcher here?" And I was like, What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, in high school, you could DH for like center fielder. Like, why can't we do that?" I was like, um, "Because it's not high school baseball, bro. Like, you can't DH for the center fielder and not let him hit. Like, that dude has to go out there and defend, and then he has to hit. Like, you only DH for the pitcher here." Ugh. But
I
to your point, like, it's
no, I
different
run
rules.
into
They
that
don't know.
with the high school stuff. Like I find myself going to high school games and something will happen and I'll be standing there with another college coach or something and I'll be like, wait a minute. They just pinch hit for that kid, but he just came in to catch again. And they're like, oh yeah, they can do that. What? Like,
The other one that breaks me. We're getting off topic. The other one that broke me was the running for the catcher.
oh,
Like,
classic,
catchers get to college, they have no idea how to run the bases.
classic.
Literally
Yeah.
no idea how to run the
Every
bases because they never like they get to first base and it's like time, runner for the catcher. And then that dude, like, he never runs the bases. Then they get to college and you're like, "Hey, what's your lead at first base?" They're like, they take like two steps, they're like right here. It's like that, like, you could fall over and half your body is gonna touch first base. Like, no. It's wild.
yeah, yeah.
All right, rein it in here. Rein it in.
All right. Sorry. All right. The other thing I want to talk about before we close out is visits and offers, right? And I think that you start with offers. I think what's really important to understand in the kids and the parents need to think about this. What are you trying to get out of this? Right? Like what's important to you? Because there's a bunch of different types of offers that you can get at the Division One level or the Division Two level where money is a factor, right? There's going to be situations where coaches are going to go and run your transcript and they're going to find out how much financial aid you can get or how much academic money you can get. If you're dead set on getting baseball money, like you may not get that, right? You need to figure out what's important there. Some people are going to offer you a roster spot. Is that good enough, right? Is that what you're looking for? Some people are going to say at an academic school, hey, if you can get in, you got a roster spot on the team, but we can't support you through admissions because you're not one of our guys. Like you're not one of the guys that we're going to support, but we like you. But we think you have a chance to get in on your own. So if you get in, you got a roster spot here. Like there's a long list of types of offers that you can get. You know, you can get the stacked money, you can get a minimum baseball offer, and that's all you're getting. There could be, minimum baseball with academic and financial aid. Um, you need to think about the meaning of that information. But the other part of it is what are you trying to get out of it from a baseball perspective, and what kind of role are you looking for? Because I can tell you when you get there, it's a meritocracy, but there's a big difference between, hey, we're giving you a walk on spot versus here's baseball money. We think you're a part of this, and guys have to make decisions. Like everybody needs. Well, I mean, at this point, you need at least 8 walk-ons to fill out your 40-man roster, and I have a feeling that you're probably going to be looking for more than that because it's really tough to stretch 11-7 across 32 guys now. So everybody needs walk-ons, and some people may not need the money, so that might be enough, right? Maybe you get the financial aid, but where do you fit within a program in the level of like want from that program, in the opportunity to play early on in your career, maybe to get innings? Like the writing's on the wall with a lot of that stuff. Like if you get a walk-on offer spot, you can assume that you're going to have to really earn some stuff in order to get in the mix. If you get a 50% baseball offer, it's not that you don't have to work your ass off to get it, but they're telling you with that offer that you're a big piece of the puzzle. And for some kids, I don't think that they walk themselves through that. And you need to really think about what you're trying to get out of your baseball experience. And like, do you want to go somewhere where they see you as a part of the solution? Or do you want to go somewhere where they see you as a guy who can be on the roster? Some people want to roll the dice, and there's some great stories about guys that have been walk-on guys and gone on to have great careers, get drafted, go play in the big leagues. We had a kid at William and Mary who was a walk-on. We couldn't get the kid out of the freaking lineup. We tried for 4 years. We couldn't get him out of the lineup because you just kept doing stuff to help us win games. So you get cases like that, but you got to really be comfortable in your own skin, and you got to really be comfortable with the school and the fit if that's the choice you're going to make, especially if you have other offers where they've extended the hand that, hey, like, here's some money that we want to offer you. Kind of rambled there, but yeah.
No, you're right.
Well,
I think that the hard part is figuring out the nuance between what the offer is, and it also depends, largely on the type of school and what they're able to offer, right? Like, if you're a school that can't give scholarships, or you're not fully funded, those offers are going to look a little bit different than the school that is fully funded, or the Division III school versus the high end Division I school. So I think that there's a lot of nuance there. Like, obviously at the Division III level, it's more just roster spots. But I think you kind of see that at the Division I level at some of the higher end academic schools too. Like, you have a roster spot, and kind of what does that mean? That roster spot at a high end academic school is different than the roster spot at a non-academic school, right? Like, there's fewer guys that are going to end up at let's say a Harvard than there are JMU, because we had Jimmy on, and shout out to Jimmy, who just got hired as the Maryland pitching coach. But so they're like those two offers are not the same. But how much money you're getting and kind of what you're going to be able to get out of it is obviously will kind of tell you what they think of you and what the value they're placing on you is. And the value that is placed on you by each individual program is going to be different program to program, right? Like, one program might say, like, this is a 35% guy, where another one might say it's 50. So it kind of depends on the program as well. But the offer will kind of tell you like where they kind of see you fitting into their program, at least from a freshman year standpoint. And what they think you're going to be able to do moving forward. Now, once you accept that offer and you end up at that school, like, you then have to continue to work really hard once you get there, and once you're on campus, and in the weight room, in the classroom, and be able to show up and show out when you're there. But I think it's individualized to each school and the program and what they're actually able to offer. And I don't think it's unfair when you're having these conversations and you're getting offers to say, like, hey, like, what, where do you see me fitting in as a freshman? What do you see as the, long-term goal or plan for me would be? Like, they're obviously want you in their program. They've offered you, they've extended that offer. So it's fair to have that conversation of like, hey, where do you see me fitting in? Am I the fifth catcher, or, am I going to have an opportunity to compete for time if I develop into a guy, my freshman, sophomore year, whatever it might be? And those are fair conversations. We talked about it 20 minutes ago, that coaches have these conversations all the time. So it's not a bad thing. And in my opinion, it actually shows that you're being very thoughtful in the process for yourself, right? Like, if you don't ask kind of pointed questions like that, then it's not a negative, but it shows me like, okay, like, this kid's kind of squared away. Like, he's really thinking this through and what it is that is important to him, and where he wants to know where I see him fitting in. And those are good conversations to have, because that's the same thing. You're getting feedback from them on where they see you fitting in, your freshman year. So it's worth having those conversations, and it gets very nuanced with the amount or which program and what they're capable of offering, and what those offers mean to each program, because they're not equal across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I want to add about the offer thing is, for the parents that are listening, I want to be like very clear on this. there is no baseball money at the Division III level. Because I get asked this frequently, and I see people post about it and stuff. There's no baseball money. It's financial aid and it's academic money, period. And an offer is going to be for a roster spot essentially. But if somebody at the Division III level says, "Hey, we want you to be here. We're going to support you through admissions," like that's essentially your offer. You need to be comfortable with the financial component of that school. And that's a responsibility of the parent and the player, is to know that that school could be a financial fit, right? So if you're going to play at the Division III level, or you're going to be a non-scholarship guy at any level, Division I, Division II, you need to do your financial research, right? You don't want to get all the way down to that offer and they say, "Hey, we got a uniform for you. We want you to come here and compete, but we're not going to offer you any baseball money. You're going to get $10,000 worth of academic money. Now you're responsible for $60,000 tuition." You need to know what you can handle from a financial perspective and what's reasonable. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. And almost every single school has a net price calculator, and they're generally very accurate if you are honest about the information that you put in there. And you want to make sure that you have those questions answered long before you get to the offer stage. Like, you need to go look at the price tag. You need to go look at, all right, and run some basic scenarios. If it's a Division III school, it's not going to be, there's no athletic money to factor in. So go fill out the price calculator and ask the coach, "Hey, am I going to qualify for any merit-based money? Like, based on your experience and my transcript and what you've seen in the past with players, what type of merit money do you think I could potentially be afforded?" And start to get a better understanding what the finances are going to look like. Because if it's not going to be a fit financially, you need to go find another place. Um, Same thing if it's a Division I or Division II roster spot, walk-on situation, is you need to wrap your head around whether that can be a fit. If it's an in-state school, like Virginia's got an awesome in-state school system. There's a bunch of Division I schools, and they're all affordable. So if you're in state, a walk-on spot could be a really reasonable thing from a financial perspective. But if you leave the state of Virginia and you get offered a roster spot at a school in North Carolina where there's another, 15 Division I schools, the cost of tuition might be twice as much, and it may not be something that's feasible for you. But being able to really think about that, and that's from a parent perspective, is that's one of the things that you need to have that nailed down before you get too deep in the process, because you don't want to go chasing something just to find out, or have not done the research, like, we can't pay for that. All right, well, look, there's a lot of other schools out there that are going to be more affordable, and we need to go look at those schools and take those into consideration. And some states are better for in-state stuff. They have more options. Virginia was unique because it was really heavy with Division I in-state schools, but then there was also a bunch of really good Division III programs in state, and the cost of tuition was really, really effective. But if you get into a state like Massachusetts or New Jersey, there's only a few Division I schools that are associated with the state school system. Um, if you can't play at one of those two schools and you need to be in state because of the cost of college, which is crazy right now, which is a whole nother conversation, you probably need to really strongly consider those good Division III and good Division II programs in those schools, in those states, because it's going to be more effective financially. So I would highly suggest, as you go through this, especially in the summer here for the 24s that are coming down to decision time here in the next 3 or 4 months, start to think about that stuff, because you don't want to get too far down the road with the school just to get close to the finish line and go, "Oh shoot, like, we can't make this work." Because there's a lot of resources that you can access that are going to prevent you from getting that far, and having to make that decision really close to the finish line. And it'll give you more time to pivot to other schools that could be a better fit financially.
Agreed. I don't have much to add. I think you nailed that.
Oh, thanks, Keith. That means a lot coming from you.
You're welcome.
Um, Last thing, real quick, visit. Take them. Go see college campuses. Fit them into your schedule. If a coach wants you to come and visit campus, unless it's a school you have absolutely no interest in, go check it out because information is incredibly valuable in this process. And you get that FaceTime with coaches. I think they're one of the most important parts of the process. It's not facilities, right? That's not what should be the deciding factor for you. You want to be comfortable with the individuals who are going to coach you, and you want to make sure that that school is going to be a fit socially, and that school is going to be a fit academically. You can get a pretty good idea of those things. Academics, you do your research. Not that hard. Talk to the coaches. Socially and campus wise, you're not going to get that if you don't go to campus and visit a school. And if you want to really get to know a coach, you're not going to do it over the phone. If they want to have you on campus to meet face to face, that's when you get a really good feel for what that coach is about. They're going to spend time to tour you around campus. They're going to sit down in the office, make sure you got your questions prepared, get things answered. That's how you're going to sit back and you're going to realize, like, that's a guy I want to play for. Or you may walk away and be like, I don't want to play for that guy. Because those individuals are going to have a huge impact on what your experience is. And if you're afforded the opportunity to visit in these new timelines that have been put in place around the August 1st prior to junior year, and they've moved up the dates for what they can have for official visits, players, you have the time to go do this. And yeah, summer is going to be crazy and it could get busy for you. But if your tournament's Thursday through Sunday and you've got Monday and Tuesday to go do a visit, like, don't kick the can down the road. Get to that college campus, meet those coaches, because the quicker you can get to a yes or a no, the quicker you get to clarity and the quicker you get to a decision that you want. Hopefully it's a yes. If it's not a yes, early on in your process or as you go through this, if you've got 4 or 5 different schools that you're looking at that are recruiting you, the goal isn't to, you're not committing to all 5. You need to get down. You're going to have to say no 4 times. So you want to get to those no's as quick as possible so you can get to the yes as quick as possible. So take advantage of the opportunity, enjoy it, go meet these guys, get some information, and get a really good feel for, what these campuses look like.
Yeah, I think the visit is the biggest part. I used to always say if I can get guys to campus, then I have a really good shot. But being able to get to a campus to see what it is that school has to offer, and hopefully be able to talk to the coaching staff as well. But you'll get a feel for what you like and what you don't, and it's invaluable information. You need to go actually visit these schools that you're interested in, because you might get there and realize, like, yeah, I don't really like this place, or you might end up a place that you didn't think you were going to like and you visited and you really like it. So being able to get that information and go visit these schools and be able, like, it gives you more information in your process to figure out what's the best fit for you. I mean, it's non-negotiable in my opinion that you're going to want to go visit these schools to make sure that it's going to be the right fit for you. You don't want to walk in there blind and not meet anybody on the team or the coaching staff, or only have phone conversations. You want to sit down in their office and have conversations about what's going on, see what they have to offer from an athletic standpoint and a school standpoint. Like, what do the school facilities look like? What are the dorms? What's the cafeteria? Stuff like that. Like, you're going to spend a lot of time there. So you're going to want to what those things are going into it. You don't want to get there and be like, I didn't know it was like this. Well, it's on you. You shouldn't have gone there if you didn't know. Like, you should have visited to get all that information. So it's things like that. Like, those are things that you can find out on these visits, and you should be taking them as much as you possibly can. Go through the admissions stuff. Like, they do a really good job. They'll take you on a very thorough tour of campus, usually from an academic standpoint. And then, the coaches will walk you around what they have, or you can go walk around yourself. So there's a lot of things you can do in order to understand what the right fit is for you on those visits. And they're, like I said, they're invaluable for you.
Spot on, Coach Glass. If you're 25, like, yeah, you can't go on campus and meet with a coach unless it's a camp setting. But if you've got some schools that if somebody's giving you good information and like, hey, that could be a fit, that's where those on-campus camps come into play. And that's kind of your built-in visit. So, I mean, we've harped on it, but I think it's really important to have eyes on where you're at. I think the new timeline is going to encourage that. Give guys an opportunity to go see places. Even if you're a highly sought after 25 and you get to August 1st and you've got, 5 or 6 offers or whatever when you wake up in the morning, hopefully those coaches have enough patience where you get a chance to go visit campus. If they don't, you might want to think twice about whether you want to play for that guy. If they really want you, they should want you to be comfortable with the decision you're going to make. So if you've never seen that campus, and you need a week to get down there to go see it, kindly ask that coach for the time that you want to go down and see campus. If they don't want to afford you that time, you might want to strongly consider the other places that are offering you, because they're probably a little bit more invested in you being a part of that program and don't look at you quite as much as a number or a means to an end when it comes to the recruiting process. So consider that stuff heavily. I think it's really important to make sure that you're 100% comfortable with where you're going to go, because ideally you're there for 4 years. So anything you want to add to that, Coach?
Nope. Nailed it. 2 for 2.
Man. Well, I am not going to try to go for 3 for 3. So we're going to close this one out. Another good episode, Coach Glass, as always. Absolute pleasure.
Always.
Can't wait to see you soon.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everybody for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. What do they call it? Smash the subscribe, if you will.
Smash it.
Smash that thing. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please follow and subscribe as well. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram, EMD Baseball. If you don't know, first-time listener, me and Keith got 25 years of experience coaching college baseball, and we are in the business of helping families navigate this whole thing. So if you need some help and you have any interest or just looking to connect with us and maybe get some advice, go check out emdbaseball.com. Plenty of information about what we do and who we are there. Otherwise, hope you guys come back and listen next week. We'll have something good for you, I promise. Thanks, everybody.